Okay. So last yesterday we've talked about. Oh, sorry. Good morning, teacher Chris. It's nice to meet you again. So yesterday we've talked about what is project orienteering, as well as some of the steps included in project orienteering, like, and also like why is it important, and what part of project orienteering makes it special for our Korean students. So now we'll be continuing with where we left off, which is, I think let's go ahead and start. I mean, let's go ahead and continue on this part, which is correcting pronunciation and grammar. Yesterday, I indicated that we we prioritize our students to speak more, without the fear of making grammatical mistakes. And then after that one, we can train them, or rather correct them, in a way that they don't feel criticized. Because I'm pretty sure us teachers are able to, how should I say this, are able to find ways to correct them without making them feel criticized or something like that. So that's pretty much it about correcting pronunciation and grammar. The next one is actually about explaining the reason for answers. Let me just position myself here. Explaining the reason for the answer. This is actually another step for the students to make their answers longer. Like, for example, uh, my student A here, or rather my student here, although have given about two sentences of answers, we can ask them additional questions about why they gave such answers. So this actually is like making them think critically from what they are saying. So we're not just going to be settling for one or two answers. They should have some kind of basis for which why they gave those kind of answers. And this one actually falls on the five foundations that I've discussed yesterday, which is the first one is narrative, descriptive, and the third one is actually explanatory. And the two top tier ones is the logical, and lastly is rhetoric, or rather persuasive. So number 9 is retelling the story itself, or rather, it's about summary and conclusions. But let's just say, for example, the student was able to retell the story. That is actually, yeah, that is okay. That's good. That's a good sign. But it's a lot better if the students can provide, like, a, how should I say this? Like a solution to the problem. Remember yesterday I mentioned that in a particular topic there are also some underlying problems, and those problems are like are like vast places that the student can get lost in, well, speaking metaphorically. And that compass that they're holding to get to their destination or the answer is the solution itself, metaphorically speaking. Now, like I said, it's not enough that the student provide a summary of all the things that you've talked about. Of course, we will be providing them guiding questions, or depending on the teacher what kind of question it is. It is also advisable that the student will provide conclusion to the problem itself. Let's say, for example, the topic is about, let's go back to making friends, right? Making friends in a foreign country. Then the student should provide like at least about, let's say, one or two conclusions. And then based from those two conclusions, the teacher can ask, okay, so for conclusion A and conclusion B, you mentioned that this and this and that. Now, which one do you think is the best conclusion for you to make, to socialize or make friends in the foreign country? Then that's the time again that the students will have to pick which one is better, and then of course try to explain the reason for the answer. And that's about it. That's about the end for project orienteering. Now, another on a side note, project orienteering is specifically made for students who are able to do basic, or I mean, who are able to who have like basic comprehension. Like they tell you to, teacher, I understand what you said. Can you please speak slowly? So that's a sign of basic comprehension. But for students who have like, although you try to slow down of how you speak to them, which is actually a sign of below basic comprehension, we actually have like a kiddie version of it, of project orienteering, and actually we call that one storytelling. And storytelling is the same steps as this one, but not too complicated. We actually have like an example of storytelling here, but unfortunately I cannot find it, so I'll have to make a new one. And that's like gonna be a topic for another day. Now, going back to one of the steps here. Okay, so that's about it. That's about the whole step of project orienteering. Now, yesterday I also mentioned about pathway English, or in other words, it's like a basis for, maybe I'll just show you this one. Okay, this one. We call this one pathway English. Although we've actually based it on one of the sources that we found, but we just want to call it pathway English. So how does pathway English work? Imagine, for example, we have a sentence. We have a sentence, and then we as teachers try to incorporate that one with images. Of course, our job as teachers is to tell the students how the sentence relates to the image itself, and also how, how those things in the sentences, well, be like, we try to be more specific on what is happening in the sentence as well in the picture itself. That is what we do traditionally. But in pathway English, as you can see here, well, I won't give the answer. What have you noticed of the wording here, teacher Crystal? The word? Yes. Like they are positioned in specific images, specific objects in the picture, right? Like for example, a group, as you can see here. To give a clue of what the word means. Right. And I want to add also to my question is that some of the words in the sentences are actually, let's just say, labeled or pasted on particular objects in the picture. Let's say, for example, this sentence here. Actually, this one is just one sentence. A group of workers has set fire to a barricade to protest. What is happening in pathway English is that we try to break down the sentence and then label them to particular points in the picture. Like for example, a group. We cannot put a group here, so we actually label the phrase a group in these two people here. Of workers, of course, we've also put it here. Preposition of here has, well, actually it depends on the teacher itself. So the one who created this one just put it here. Set fire, as you can see, there's a fire here, to a barricade. There's a barricade here, then another preposition to protest. So pathway English is pretty much straightforward. So to put it more simply, you break down the sentences, label them to the corresponding objects in the picture, and then try to set like an arrow or pathway for the students to follow. So let me give you another example, which is this one. I actually created it. So this is another example that I actually used for my student. There's a sentence: mountaineers took the rope and climbed the mountain. So I tried to look for an image using the word mountaineers, and then also the verb took, which is this one, the picture, and the rope, and climbed the mountain. So it's like helping the students and also you to identify what is happening in the picture, although you can we can also guide them, but it's like we're trying to be letting the students try where it's like, imagine this is the student and you're like holding their hand, something like that. But of course we don't hold their hand for too long. It's like just for starters, okay, something like that. That is what pathway English is about. So basically, those are the purpose of the arrows. Now, some teachers actually try to do this one in a more traditional way, like using papers, and then they try to draw things there. But if you want to make it faster, you can actually, this one is actually, how should I say this? Can be created using Canva. Now, this one is also a good activity or in yeah activity for the students, because you can actually let's say for example this is Canva. I actually do this one also to my students. I try to put some jumbled words here like this one, and some jumbled pictures here, and then the students will try to arrange the pictures and also the arrow itself, and that actually makes the student, how should I say this, not exactly make the students, but it makes for a fun and engaging activity for the student itself. And that's about it about Pathway English. So, do you have any questions or anything?
I think that's also applicable for adults, but beginners,
Yes, correct.
the ones who can't express themselves and don't understand a sentence.
Yes, yes.
Usually, when they speak more on words and Koreans.
Yes, absolutely. So, anyway, yeah, this is actually suitable for beginners, especially for students who we think that are more of a visual person. But I think everyone's a visual person. Right, so that's about it for our what we discussed yesterday, a continuation of project orienteering, like all the steps, and then lastly how Pathway English works. All right. Thank you very much for coming to our seminar. All right, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Asal ko na?